program with the Chizuk mission. My first mission was in February. My first mission was in February to Eretz Yisrael. It took me 5 years of convincing to be able to go. And I'm here to just, for a couple minutes, touch on the topic of will the real you, will the real me stand up? And I can say that it's a daily, moment-by-moment avoda of trying to have the real me stand up. And there's a story that I heard from this Rabbi, Daniel Cohen, who's from Stamford, Connecticut. And he tells this story of a 94-year-old man that was suffering with COVID from Italy. And he ended up needing to be on a ventilator. He made it, he survived. And as he was being wheeled out of the hospital, the doctor gave him his hospital bill. And he saw the daily charge of being on a ventilator. And when he saw the daily charge of being on a ventilator, he started crying. And the doctor said, "Is this something you can't afford? Is this an issue for you?" And he said, "No, I can afford it. I'm crying because for 94 years I've been breathing on my own, not realizing how precious each breath is. And now that I see this bill and the daily cost of breathing, I've taken it for granted for 94 years. And that really affected me. And Moda'ani in general has taken on a whole new meaning for me in my life. At 37, I suffered from an aneurysm that I wasn't supposed to wake up from. And then wake up in a hospital and you see all your children, young children around you, and you realize, how fragile life is. And it took me about a year to wake up every single morning and actually realize that I'm alive and not looking down on myself. And Moda'ani took on a whole new meaning. And what is Moda'ani? We say two things in Moda'ani. We say, thank you Hashem for giving me life again today and allowing me to wake up. But we're also saying to Hashem that you're recognizing that because Hashem has given you another day, there's something for you to accomplish that day. There's something for you to do that day. There are big things for you to do that only you can do. And Rabbi David Aaron says it beautifully that we are each a masterpiece because we are all a piece of the master. And when we realize that we truly are a piece of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that He is living through us, then every single day becomes such an important day to do whatever we're going to do. The mommying, the wifing, the being in business, the being a friend, the being the chauffeur, whatever we're doing, there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. Quick little story, a couple weeks ago, there was a lady who had sent a horrible text message to another lady about me in business. And this has been ongoing for years. And this was the first time, the very first time that I consciously said, and it was on Shavasar B'Tammuz, and I said, Hashem, you are hysterical. This is amazing. Thank you so much for speaking so loud and clear to me. You are giving me a chance and an opportunity to either let my Yetzer Hara win, where I would have every right to be able to call up my husband, call up my sister, call up anybody who knows the MS, and say to them, can you believe it? Look how disgusting. I'm right, she's wrong, look at her behavior. And I decided I'm not letting my Yetzer Hara win today. I am going to win this. I did not utter a word. This is the first time I'm even mentioning it. I did not utter a word to a single soul. Not to a single soul, except for you guys. And what happened is that it dissipated by the next morning. Usually when I would talk about this situation, it would last for a week or two, because every single day I would spend so much energy giving that my kochos of telling people the story and needing that validation about this negativity. And instead, because I let it just go and I didn't think about it, and I'm not talking about this to anyone. First of all, the brachos that I saw the very next day were huge and clear. And also, it was off my head. I didn't give this person, I didn't give this negativity any of the energy that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me that morning to wake up with and gave me that bracha with. So when we're talking about the real us standing up, or the real me, or it's a daily avoda of listening to the voice inside of us, of listening to who we truly are and trying to align who we really are with the personification that we're putting out there in the world. And sometimes it's not aligned, and sometimes we have these masks that we're putting out in the world of how we're dressing and who we are, and like the Rebbetzin before was saying, the cars, the Gucci's, the this, the that. And our tafkid is really to try and align who we really are on the inside with the personification that we're putting out there into the world. And if it's not aligned, then we should be talking to ourselves a little bit more and trying to figure out, how do we get it to be aligned? How do we get the real us to stand up? And there's this idea of seizing, meditative moments and turning off the noise and letting ourselves hear our insides more. The Chizuk mission gave me that in February, even though it was a week of being with 45 other incredible human beings that literally formed this sisterhood. Now I get it. But besides that, it gave me a week to turn off the noise, to be able to allow myself to hear me. And there's this story of a farmer who lost his watch in the barn. And everybody came to help him find his watch. And hours go by, they don't find the watch. All of a sudden, this 8-year-old little boy comes running in to the house, and he says, "I found the watch." And the farmer's like, "How did you find the watch? There were 10 of us looking for the watch for hours." He said, "It was easy. I laid down on the floor, I put my ear to the ground, laid really still and quiet, and I heard the ticking. And then I just followed where the ticking was coming from." And that's the voice inside of us. It's that little tiny ticking. And the noise out there is what we have to quiet down in order to start hearing ourselves a little bit more, seizing those meditative moments, whether it's the Chizuk mission, whether it's a moment for yourself, whether it's something like this. These are those meditative moments to get rid of the noise, start listening to yourself, and to be able to grow as a human being for yourself, and then that in turn makes us the best givers to everybody else around us. So thank you for hearing me out. Is Rabbi Haber here? Okay, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Haber. Rabbi Joey Haber is the Rav of Magen David Synagogue in Brooklyn, and he's also the Rav of Beit Yosef in Deal, New Jersey. And he is also a speaker in Shaarei Tzion on Ocean Parkway. Rabbi Haber learned for over 7 years in Staten Island with Rabbi Reuven Feinstein, and he also learned in BMG, and also I believe in Bells, or no, where it was in Frisk. It was something with a B. And he also started and founded this incredible program called Kesher to work with high school graduates to keep them connected to their Yiddishkeit with Shabbaton, Shabbos programs, other programs, learning programs. He also started now for girls and a seminary for girls called Na'aleh. I got that right? And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Haber, and this should also be for the Refuah Shlema for Eliyahu Chaim ben Asher Lemel.
Good to be here, and I need to say an introduction. I happen to love this concept, and only heard about it recently in being invited to speak. But the idea, I think, is phenomenal. Barry is the visionary of this whole thing, right? You're the visionary of the whole story? It's funny, I usually try, when I'm speaking, addressing women, I'll say Mrs., like I want to thank Mrs. Fast for putting this all together. So I said, can someone give me her name? No, it's Barry. There's no other name. There's no last name. But the truth is, just like, maybe it's a strong comparison, but just like there was a realization that Sarah Schneer had, I don't know how many years ago, 100 years ago, about the fact that women need to learn and girls need to go to school in order for Klal Yisrael to survive. I think in a similar vein, for that learning to continue, and not just a nice inspirational, hear a few words of inspiration and move on, but in a real serious kind of way, I think is equally as important. Because it's not good enough to just have a foundation. You need to know how to build the whole structure. And to have, whether it's the missions to Eretz Yisrael or whether it's these days where you're focused, people come out of their regular life, take a Tuesday and focus the entire day on growth and on learning. I think every woman that leaves this room after the entire day is going to come home better, stronger, ready to lead, and that's critical for Klal Yisrael to continue. It's not just good enough that they go to elementary school, and it's not just good enough to go to high school, it's not just enough to go to seminary. Missions like this and goals like this are really what's going to help make Klal Yisrael strong and powerful like it needs to be. Because there are many girls who did wonderful in high school, and then it faded away over the years. They got married, they had children, they got lives, they moved to different neighborhoods, maybe the environment wasn't what they used to, and next thing you know, they look, sound, and are living different than they dreamed of when they were in 10th grade. It's missions like this that are going to keep Klal Yisrael and keep the woman in Klal Yisrael, the backbone of Klal Yisrael, as strong as it needs to be. Now you could clap. Okay, one more question. Am I speaking Ashkenaz or Syrian? Which way do you want me to go? So every time I usually get the same, because
we can hack it.
No, I get the two sides. The one side of it is speak Ashkenaz because we're all Ashkenaz. The other side of it is speak Syrian because it's like a British accent. It's a little cool. So I got it.
I'll tell you what you are, an original.
I'm an original? So therefore, the real me is actually both, if you want to know the truth. The real me, I don't tell anyone, don't tell any of my Sephardi friends. I grew up my entire life in the Syrian community with the mainstream Syrian my entire life. But it happens to be when I went to school in pre-1A, I went to Lakewood Cheder. And I learned Aleph Beis before I learned Aleph Bet. So I learned the Ashkenaz yeshivas for 30 years of my life. The Cheder, Staten Island, Brisk, BMG for 10 years. So I could do, whatever you want. No bells. No, I did not go to bells. I did not learn. No, I don't have a spot. I went to bells one Friday night. I went to a bells at Tish. That's as close as I ever got to bells. So, and now, of course, I'm a Rav in the Syrian community, so usually I speak Syrian, but in speaking to many Ashkenaz crowds, we do both. So we'll go, I guess, we'll blend it in both, one or the other. What we're going to talk about today, and we're going to speak for a given amount of time, and then hopefully we'll have some time for questions and answers, which I hope there's some women in the crowd that are going to come up with some questions, even if you have to make them up, in order to make the topic even richer than it is. We're going to try today to make you a better person, a better mother, a better daughter, a better wife, a better sister, better neighbor, a better teacher, a better member of Klal Yisrael. But we're going to do it the hard way. That means usually people like the easy way. We're speaking in Torah anytime. They have this thing the last few years, daily dose. In 2 minutes, you get a dose, it pumps you up, it inspires you. By the way, just for the record, they don't ask permission from the speakers when they take the dose. So yesterday, I walk into my parents' house and my mother says, by the way, you're on the dose today. I said, oh, that's phenomenal, let me see it. And she shows me the dose, and I had some story that I told. At the end of the story, I said, sometimes someone comes over to you and just says, think, and the dose ends. And I'm like, wow, that's powerful, inspiring, got it, think. This is going to be much, much deeper than that. And much harder to achieve. Its depth is not going to be because it's so complicated. Its depth is going to be because in order to make this happen, it's going to take a very long time. I'm going to quote to you a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Shimon ben Omer. Shimon used to say, Kol yamai gadalti ben hachachamim. All my life I lived amongst wise people. V'lo matzati laguf tov ela shetika. I have not found for the body anything better than silence. V'lo ha-midrash ha'ikar. And it's not the midrash, the learning, that's the main thing. Ela ha-ma'aseh, rather it's action. I have 3 questions on the Mishnah. First of all, why the intro is gadalti? Why do I need to know that you were raised amongst chachamim? Every single one of the rabbis of Pirkei Avot obviously are getting their lessons from the chachamim. Why do you have to tell me I lived my whole life amongst chachamim? Second question is, what do you mean the best thing is silence? Everything we do through speech. You can't teach without speech. You can't create relationships for the most part without speech. Try sitting on a date and not saying a word. It's not going to work. So what do you mean the best thing is silence? I think the best thing is to talk. Hence why I talk. But I think the best thing is to talk. And then the final statement, Veloha midrash ha'ikar, the midrash, the learning is not the main thing. What do you mean? Everything is about learning. I just told you that my most proudest part of my life is my learning. Everything is learning. We always believe, all we want to raise our sons and daughters is to learn. What do you mean the learning is not the main thing? How could you possibly say this? So every part of this Mishnah, I don't understand. I don't understand why we need your background of being raised amongst Chachamim. I don't understand how you could tell me silence is better than speech. And I don't know, for sure don't know how you could tell me that there's something that's greater than the learning and the study of Torah. So I'm going to try and explain this Mishnah this way. You see, we like everything immediate. We do. We like when you have, if you've ever had a problem, and you heard of a problem, you wanted to solve it immediately. That means someone is upset at you, someone's insulted from you. So what do? You right away want to call up the person and tell them right away, well, no, I'm going to tell you right now. No, but I'm in a meeting. It doesn't matter. I have to talk to you right now. Because we like things to be solved immediately. And if, on the opposite, if we want to show off, and we want to show we're doing great, we want people to know immediately. I don't know if anyone in this room ever had this experience where you had an extreme success right away. Somehow you wanted everybody to know. And the world it functions that way. If someone succeeds, right away it goes on Instagram, I was a success last night. Everyone needs to know. I just did this something unbelievable right away. We need to show all of our strengths immediately, and we want to solve all of our problems immediately. The quickest way to do something immediately is with your speech, is to talk about it. So you want to show your success immediately, you somehow find a way to tell people. Quickly you're going to say, by the way, just, I happened to be, I'm coming here, but I was really there. I was, where I went, where I'll tell you, where I spoke there, you have to know. We subtly, some people say it straight out, a lot of people do it subtly. We do it with our speech. And if we want to solve a problem, if I told you right now that I don't want to say this, but let's say I told you right now that your husband is upset at you. You would crawl out of this room, grab the phone, and talk to him now. Because we like to solve it, and the best way to do it is with speech. But here's the problem. It doesn't work that way. I'm going to read to you the words of Rabbeinu Yoina on the Mishnah. He says like this. He says, "Shelo yilamed v'yidrash, shelo yilamed v'yidrish hamitzvahs la'acherim v'hu eino eisa eisam." Don't teach other people the mitzvahs and you don't do them. Ach yasem hu tchila v'achar kach yilamdem la'acherim. First do them and then teach others. Kamay sha'amru Rabbi Seinu zechronum levracha, and here's the words: Noim hadvarim hayotzim epi aisehem. Noim hadvarim hayotzim epi aisehem. Beautiful are the words that come out of the person that does. Which means you want to know how the world actually rates you. You want to know how the world actually views you. You want to know how the world actually believes and trusts you. It's only from what you do. It's not from your words. If you have a problem, if your husband is upset at something and you're going to want to right now talk to him about it, and you may get him to calm down right now. But the real results do not come from words. The real results come from action. It's the only way, the most powerful way is action. If you say to me some compliment about yourself and you walk over and say, by the way, do you know I'm the best cook in New York? I have no idea. I think you're just talking about it. If I happen to catch you and I see that you're the best cook in New York, all of a sudden it becomes incredibly more powerful. I'm going to give you two examples. One is a family example, and another one is a worldly one. First, a family example. One of my nephews, in 6th and 7th grade, he was clearly very shaky in his Yiddishkeit. By 8th grade, it was like a little scary. You'd see him play basketball, his yarmulke wasn't on, he started to dress differently. All of those signs that he is going in a rough direction. His parents actually made a bold move and put him for high school, not in the yeshiva that's really on the Ramah of their family. They put him in a yeshiva that's, wow. I guess I'm glad I got inside now. Okay. By the way, it's much easier to give up your day when you know it's raining. Like you didn't sacrifice an awesome sunny summer day. Yesterday was gorgeous. Today it's good to be inside. So anyhow, he went to like a mid-level school, like a school that you know is not for the Mitzuyanim. And I heard in 9th grade, 10th grade that he's starting to really learn. Okay, you hear things about anybody. One day, as a random like Sunday afternoon, I was going to film in one of the shuls in the Syrian community. I went to there, have a side annex, and I was going to film a little video for some organization, I forget what. And I go into this little annex, and the building is empty. It's a Sunday afternoon. It's not the type that anyone should be there. And as I'm going to the 3rd floor, I accidentally first go to the 2nd floor, and I see my nephew sitting at a stender learning. I said, you know what? I don't have to hear anything from anybody. Seeing the action is 100 times more powerful. I am now 100% sold on who this boy is. He could have told me 10 times, you know how much I'm learning, you know how much I'm learning. And it just sounds like fluff and air and words. And he might think that, you know what, I need my uncle to know that I'm not the same kid I was in 8th grade. Telling me is not something I believe. It doesn't resonate. You need to do it. And when you do it and someone catches you in the act, the greatest way for people to realize your greatness is let them catch you in the act of your greatness. And if they see it again and again, you want to know how to solve whatever made your husband upset today. Hopefully that story isn't true and no one's husband is upset. But if that happened, you know what to do? Do it. Do whatever that is that was frustrating. Do it the right way, and then do it again, and do it again, and he will be so much more convinced than your words. Words are nice, they soothe the moment, they never fix the problem. You want to fix the problem, you want to show who you are, you need to act. And here's the second story. which again, I don't know if I should, it's a pretty worldly, it's out there story, but I guess, again, I don't mean out there, I'm saying it's not Jews that we're talking about, but I'll tell the story anyhow. Sports is a big thing in America today. So big that there are many, many shows of sports shows where they talk about sports. So that means if the Yankees are going to play tonight, they're discussing it back and forth today. I don't know why they can't just wait for them to play the game, but they have to discuss. They're going to win, he's going to get a hit, they're going to get a lose, so on. The most popular sports talk show in the media today is a show called First Take. And First Take has two hosts, and basically they fight and disagree the entire show, and that's, I guess, what makes it entertaining and exciting. Good. One of the hosts, but the hosts happen to get along. They fight on the show, but they really technically get along. Good. One day, one of the hosts, let's call him Mr. A. Mr. A said something that was controversial, because the whole show is trying to be a little controversial. He crossed the line a little bit, he shouldn't have said it. It was a big deal in all the media outlets across the country. He should have said it, he shouldn't have said it, he was wrong, this is what he meant, this is not what he meant. The parent company, which was ESPN, went back and forth and debating right or wrong, what do we do? Finally, they made a decision after a month. They made a decision that they're going to suspend Mr. A from the show for a week as a punishment for what he said. The next day on the show, his partner gets on the show, and he does the show for 2 hours. And when the show is over and the screen closes, he stands up and he tells the producer, he says, let me make this very clear. Mr. A is my partner. If he's out, I'm out. I'll come back when he comes back. And he walked off the set and did not come back until a week later when his partner was back. Mr. A, I read this from an article of Mr. A. Mr. A said, I didn't get a text from him. I didn't get an email. I got emails from people all over the country in support. He didn't email me. He didn't call me. He didn't text me. He just acted. He says, and Mr. A will be my brother, excuse me, not Mr. A, my partner will be my brother for the rest of my life because he acted on my behalf. Action is where the power happens. You want to know what makes you you? It's when you're able to stop talking about it and acting it. When you decide who is the person you want the world to look at you as, act that person. Don't talk about that person. Don't say how much of a great mother you are, and I'm really a wonderful daughter, and I really care about my sisters so much, and I'm always there for my children. You know how your children know you're always there for them? When you do it. But now I'm going to tell you something that's even greater than this. And because it's greater, it's much harder. A couple of months ago, we read in the Parsha, if you follow in my mitzvahs, if you follow in my chukim, that's mitzvah tishmaru, and you follow and you keep my mitzvahs, and you will do them. So what does each phrase mean? Rashi says you should toil in your Torah learning. And mitzvah tishmaru means shmiras ha-mitzvahs, watching the mitzvahs. The question is, what do you mean? The next word means doing the mitzvahs. Ma'asisa means doing the mitzvahs. What do you mean that this means? What do you mean? I got means to toil in your Torah study. But what do you mean mitzvah tishmaru means to do the mitzvahs? The next word, ma'asisa means to do it. This is a question that my Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Feinstein, we mentioned before, is in Staten Island Yeshiva. Not in Bronx Yeshiva, Staten Island Yeshiva, we'll get it right. I'm just bells and brisk. So, in Staten Island Yeshiva, he asked this question. We say, in fact, in the brachas of Kriya Shema, Lilmoid or Lalamed, Lishmar v'lasais. Lilmoid means to learn, Lalamed means to teach, Lasais means to do. What does Lishmar mean? To watch, to keep. What does that mean? So, Rabbi Ruvain quotes a pasuk, and he quotes a Rashi. And this pasuk is talking about Shmiras HaMitzvahs, and Rashi says, Sha'ata tzarech l'shoimra bebitnech sheloi tishkach. You have to watch it, protect it in your stomach so that it doesn't get forgotten. What does it mean to watch it in your stomach? What it means is this. There are people that talk not worth much. There are people that do, which is worth a lot. But then there's a greater level, a much more powerful level that needs to be defined. But this level, when you can achieve it, that's when people really know what makes you, you. And that level is when you be it. You're not just doing it, you become it. That means that there are not a people who they want to say they're a good cook, they cook 2 or 3 dishes well, and they cooked, and they did action. Louder than words, they did the action. But being it means that's who you are always. Means being a parent that I can count on, means that's who you are always. When you're always this way. So yes, you can learn Torah, amelut b'Torah. You could asitem otam, you could do the mitzvot. But shmiras hamitzvos means you do it always. When we say someone is a shomer Shabbos, it means he's always shomer Shabbos. You're not a shomer Shabbos if you kept 3 Shabbosim in a row. You're a shomer Shabbos when that's who you are all the time. You're a tsanua when you're always tsanua. You're a good mother when you're always a good mother. You're a kind person, not when you're nice, when you're in a good mood. You're a kind person when I could bet on your kindness. You're a positive person, not when things are going well and the world is sunny and perfect and you're happy. You're a positive person when I could know someone could see you before they even see you, they know she's for sure going to be in a positive mood. You're not just doing it, you're becoming it. It's your essence, it's who you are. In a relationship, there's nothing more powerful than the person you are. Everyone knows the person you are. Your family members know and they count on the person you are. So when you say, I'm going to fix this problem, any problem that you have in any relationship, whether it's anyone I mentioned before, teacher, student, parent, sibling, anyone, spouse, any relationship you're in, any trouble you have is not because you didn't say the right words. Any trouble you had is because you have to become that person. So if you get angry too much, don't tell me you're not going to get angry. And don't have 3 moments that you should have gotten angry, you didn't get angry. You want to become a person that we could count on your patience. We need to know that that's who you are. I recently read the book about Reb David Feinstein, alav hashalom. And the book was a very unique and very interesting book about a gadol, because there's a lot about his learning and his hasmada, but there's a lot about his midas and his style, and it's very unassuming. But there were 2 pages that when I read those 2 pages, or maybe it's 4 pages, like one piece, that I literally started to tear up and started to cry. I was reading it late at night, and there was something about it, it was so soft that I just became emotional. When it talked about how Reb David treated his wife. And it was just so wonderful. Like, for example, they used to go for many years, they would go for walks together every morning. You could see them sitting on a park bench together. And just the thought of a Gadol Adar, when he was walking into an event, he would walk as the same pace as his wife. And that might not sound like anything, but I'm a pretty busy person. And if I'm going somewhere with my wife, I'm always like 4 steps ahead because I got to go to leave. And he's always walk the same pace as his wife. In fact, one time at a wedding, someone saw Reb David Feinstein, the Gadol Adar, going over to the desserts and took a napkin, and he's taking some little cakes. So this person was a donor to the yeshiva. He says, Rosh Yeshiva, I didn't know you like these cakes. I'll have a truck deliver it to your house tomorrow. He said, no, it's not that I like these cakes. The Rebbitzin likes these little cakes. So he took the little cakes, went to the ladies section, told someone, could you please call the Rebbitzin, and then handed her the napkin with these little cakes inside of it. He says, I know you like these very much, so I collected a few just for you. I'll give you another example. Towards the end of his life, he went on a visit to Eretz Yisrael with the Rebbitzin. So their plan was one day to go to Kever Rachel and then to go to Maras HaMachpelah. They go to Kever Rachel, and then Reb David gets in the car and tells the tour guide, do me a favor, take me back to the hotel. So back to the hotel. We're supposed to go to Maras HaMachpelah. No, we're not going. Finally, they got to the hotel. Someone asked Rosh Yeshiva, your plan was to go to Maras HaMachpelah. Is everything okay? Is Rosh Yeshiva not well? He said, no, here's the story. See, Maras HaMachpelah has a lot of steps. It's very high steps. And my wife could only walk with a walker. So it's going to be very hard for her to, I realized it's going to be very hard for her to walk up the steps. So someone said, but Rosh Yeshiva, like, she could daven on the bottom. Like there's a spot over there with the corner where everyone could daven on the bottom. You go up. He says, if she can't go up, I'm not going up. And I'm not going to go up and have her stay at the bottom. I'm not doing that. He says, this is a week that I was dedicated to go with her. If she can't go up, I can't go up. And I'm like, wow, that's so not what I would have done. Like, I would have just said to my wife, honey, listen, there's a chair. Let me get you a chair. I'll get you a tillum. Listen, I'm going to go upstairs and daven to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I'll daven for us. I'll daven for our kids. Like, stay here. I'll be down in 20 minutes. I'm not going to go to Maras HaMachpelah. I don't know if he ever had a chance to go ever again in his life. I'm not going to go to Maras HaMachpelah to daven Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov because my wife can't walk up the steps. You're kidding me? Because I might be a man of action. I'm not sure if a man who is and is being that person. Should I give you more examples? Okay. Yeah, you like these examples. You're taking notes and you're going to share it with your husband. I know how it works. Okay. It was one day Reb David went fundraising, I think most of the day, or was out most of the day, and then he came to someone's house. They were going to have a small parlor meeting. And in the parlor meeting, before the parlor meeting, he tells the host, I'm sorry, I need to make a phone call. The host says, okay, no problem, I'll put you in my study. Everyone's waiting for the Rosh Yeshiva. He says, I know, let me have to make a phone call. And the host is watching through the door of his study, of his office. He sees the Rosh Yeshiva get on the phone, and he sees Rosh Yeshiva saying, this is where I went, and then this is where I went, and then this is where I went. And what did you do today? And where'd you go? He sees Rosh Yeshiva laugh. He sees Rosh Yeshiva cry. See, whatever, get him. He says, Rosh Yeshiva, who are you talking to? He says, I didn't see my wife all day, and I want you just to tell her that I'm here, and what's going on, and what's happening around me. And the man said, there's a whole house full of people waiting for the Rosh Yeshiva. And he calls his wife. Rabbi Yaakov Bender from Far Rockaway one time went into a chasana and he saw the Rosh Yeshiva come in. Rabbi David finally come in with his wife. And he saw Rabbi David take his wife, I guess, had a hard time taking off her coat. And Rabbi David took her coat off for her. And Rabbi Bender said, do me a favor, Rosh Yeshiva, could you stand there for a second? I want to take a picture. He says, why do you want to take a picture? He says, I give chaburis all the time to young married men about what marriage should be like. He says, there's nothing in the world more powerful than just a picture of you and of the Rosh Yeshiva in action. If I could show them that picture, there's nothing greater than that. I'll give you one more little story. When Reb David's son got engaged, the daughter-in-law decided she would come to the house on Friday afternoon to see her mother-in-law. So she comes into the house, and I guess no one answered the door. Maybe she's allowed to come in at that point, she's engaged. She walks inside and she says, you know what, I know how to find my mother-in-law on a Friday afternoon. I'll just follow the sound of the vacuum. And wherever the vacuum is, that's where I'll go to. So she follows the sound of the vacuum on a Friday afternoon, and she sees it's Reb David vacuuming the house. Rosh Yeshiva, you vacuum? He says, my wife works on Fridays, so I do my part, and I vacuum the house. This is not some man, some busy man. This is the Gadol Hadar, who somehow has time, this is years ago, but somehow has time to vacuum for his wife. I'll tell you what most husbands do. Yes, I'm going to really try. I'm probably going to get to it. If I get home in time, I'll probably do it. Oops, I'm sorry. Shabbos came. I have to run to shul. It's too late. Could you get a housekeeper? Maybe I'll pay for her to do it. At least that's what Syrian husbands do. But you can't word your way into greatness. You can't even act your way into greatness. The only way you get there is if you be it. Now let's get back to our Mishnah. What did he say? The Tana of the Mishnah said, Kol yamai gadalti ben hachachamim. What he's saying is that this little fact, that action, that being it is so powerful, is really something that somehow most people don't realize. Only great people know what it takes to become great. Most people think, if I had one night that I learned well, I'm a masmid. If I had a few years that I learned well, people see me as a masmid, that's what I become. If I did a few acts of chesed, I'm a balas chesed. No, you're not. You see amongst great people that they act this way consistently. But I want to tell you something else. I don't know if you realize this, but who you are, no one will tell you to your face, but everybody talks about it, about you all the time. That means it's this little secret going on around you that everybody knows exactly what you are. Your children know, your friends know. They know when they tell you, if you say you're going to do something, they know exact chances you're going to do it. For one of you, they know it's 100% it's going to get done. For another one of you, they know 70%. Another one, they know it's 50%. They don't tell you, by the way, I know you're a 50%er. They don't say that. They just know how to act accordingly. Because it's a little secret that everybody is in on besides you. Everybody knows the person you are besides you. Because you might think sometimes that you're talking your way out of it. And you might think that they're being convinced by your words or even a few of your actions. They're not. They know what makes you you, and they know how to define you because they know who you are. And therefore, sometimes words even hurt because they just become fluff and air. And therefore, he said, the best thing for the body is shtika, is silence. Don't say a word and just get to work. That's the whole goal. V'leha medrash ikar, what does that mean? It's not that learning is not important, but you're not defined until we see hamaisa, until we see what you are in action. Talking about stuff and making stories about stuff doesn't get you anywhere. It's literally who you are that makes you what you are. And this is my message today. My message today is this, is that you're spending an entire day in thought. You're spending an entire day on working on different areas of your life. You heard before me a whole speech about emunah and bitachon. Everybody talks the emunah and bitachon talk. How many of us walk the emunah and bitachon walk? How many of us that if our child catches us in a crisis, they see a balas bitachon? This day is going to be powerful. It has to transform your action with a permanency. And it won't be accomplished by Wednesday, or even next Wednesday, or even by Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur. It's going to be accomplished over a long period of time because this is hard. Inspiration is easy. Getting a moment of, I have to be better at that. I'm going to smile at people more. I'm going to be friendlier to people more. I'm going to have more tznius in my house. I'm going to talk more divrei Torah on my table. Whatever little inspiration you got, all those things are nice. But if you want this day to be a mission, for it to be powerful, for it to be enduring, it has to be transformative inside of your stomach, the way Rashi says. That literally your being becomes something that we can count on, that this is the person you are. What time am I supposed to end? I could go whatever I want? Okay. So I'm not sure how to do this. If I should take questions first and make my points based on the questions, or if I should talk about what I think are some of the obstacles that make it harder. Talk about the obstacles? You don't want to hear anyone's questions? Obstacles, okay. Okay, let's talk about some of the obstacles. Number one is our brains. Let me explain what I mean. There's a medrash, a story that's told that the Gemara says about the time. By the way, as long as the rain is here, I'm going to stay. So I could. There's a medrash that tells a story about one of the Roman generals after he destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And it says, I think it was Titus, that he went to an island and Hashem made a little fly go into his nose. And the fly went into his head. And the fly started pecking away. The fly started pecking away at his brain. And pecking away and pecking away and pecking away at his brain. This is what the Gemara says. Until one day he passed a blacksmith who was banging with his anvil or whatever they call it. And he's banging and banging, he's making a lot of noise, and it subdued the fly. So the fly stopped pecking. So he would hire people to bang near him. And for a month it worked. For 1 month, they kept banging and the fly was calm. After a month, the fly got used to it and it kept pecking and pecking and pecking away. Until eventually Titus died. And the Gemara says that they opened up his head and they saw that the fly was the size of a big, robust bird. And one of the Amoraim write, and it had nails made out of iron and a beak out of copper, and they saw it was a humongous bird inside of his head. Now you read this story, and you say, okay, I don't know, what is this story, what is it? I want to try and give you an explanation of this story that I think is incredibly relevant and happening to us all the time. I've given many, many, many speeches to women and girls, and almost every time, I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but almost time I ask the girls, do you ever overthink? And every girl's hand goes up. Let me be honest, my hand would go up too. What happens to us? Literally exactly what the Gemara described. A little fly goes into our head. A little thought, a little nonsense, a little trigger, a little friend's house that's bigger, or someone's daughter that got married before ours. Something goes into your head, and then it starts pecking and banging away at our brain till you can't think straight. You overthink and overthink. You can't even be freed. And then you know what we start to do? We need noise. So we get in the car and we turn on something. Raise your hand if you could drive a half hour with nothing on in the car. No radio, no music, no phone call. Zero on in the car. Wow, I got more hands. You could go a half hour with no friends and just the car quiet. That's much more hands than I expected. Okay, you got me. Okay? Most people don't do that. They turn on music. They turn on radio. They have to make a phone call. Like me from here, I drove an hour and a half to get here. I was on the phone the entire time, the full hour and a half. Besides the last 5 minutes, I wanted to just digest my thoughts a little. Because we need noise to subdue the fly that's in our head. And what happens when we start to think so much is that all of a sudden the fly gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That the first minute the thought went into my brain, it was a small little trigger. Okay, I felt a little bad, my daughter's not engaged. And next thing you know, it's obsessing in my head. It becomes a big bird with an iron beak. It's literally hurting me. So one of the biggest obstacles we have is that we have thoughts that sit in our head and drive us crazy. There are literally people that are in your brain, I imagine little cartoon characters walking around in your head. You never even told them. It might be your neighbor's extension. Every time you drive by, there's their extension. They made an extension in the house. I can't believe it. I can't even pay the gas bill, and they made an extension. And every time you see the extension, it's in your brain, and it's thinking in your brain, and you're thinking about it, you're imagining it. And all of a sudden it takes up so much space. You can't even think about you. You can't even think about what you want to be you. You're so obsessed with everybody else's stuff. I have to be as good as that one, better than that one. I have to be smarter than that one. I have to be prettier than that one. I have to be funnier than that one. And you have so much of other people's thoughts in your head that the idea of what we said today about just being the person you're supposed to be almost sounds like a novelty. The reality is, it's the simplest thought in the world. Be what you're supposed to be. Okay, obviously. But it's not so obvious. You know why it's not so obvious? Because we have the radio on, and we have the show on, and we have the other thing on, and we have the social media on, and we have the phone on, and we have every different distraction in the world on that doesn't ever let us stop and say, this is me, I'm proud, this is who I want to be, and this is what I'm going to focus on making myself be that person. Here's what I think is the second little challenge. This might sound odd, but I would hope and wish that everyone in this room can embrace your weaknesses. Embrace your weaknesses. Because we live in a social media age. We live in a time when we basically we are all portraying an image. And the image that we're portraying in 95% of the time is completely fake. Have you ever been somewhere with a bunch of people and it was basically, raining all day, and then you're sitting outside, and then the sun comes out for 2 minutes and say, oh, let's take a picture. And they take a quick selfie with the sun in the background, with everyone smiling. And you're like, you're going to post this picture? Let's say the truth. You were in a bad mood most of the day. You were fighting with each other. You were running in and out because of the rain. But you post a picture. We like to post our perfection. And we do everything we can to look as if we're perfect people. And I want to tell you something. You not know when you're comfortable being you, when you're okay with the fact that you have weaknesses and faults. I learned this actually through speaking. Maybe it was 15, 20 years ago. I had just started giving some shiurim and speeches. I was learning in Lakewood still. And for the first time in a speech, I told a personal story. Now, if anyone here ever listens to my shiurim, you'll know it's full of personal stories. I've got personal stories coming from all over the place. I'll tell you how it started. One night, one shiur, I gave one personal story. It was a dumb story. I'll share with you the story. Here was the story. One night I was leaving to go give a shiur, and my little daughter, she's married with 4 kids at this point, but at that point she was, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old, and we're Syrian, so she calls me daddy. She's like, Dad, why are you leaving? So I said, no, I have to go give a shiur. She's like, why do you have to go? So I said to her, do you know, because people learn Torah, and Daddy has the opportunity to teach people Torah and inspire people. She's like, oh wow, Dad, that's so special. So now I'm like, before I sound like I'm too holy, I tell her, and Mazal, and also, by the way, you know how we have food in this house? Daddy sometimes has to get paid. So Daddy gets paid, goes these things, Daddy also gets paid for it, so it helps us have food in the house. She looks at me, she says, Dad, you mean we're rich? Somehow I told over that story, and the crowd just attached to the story. They loved the honesty of it. They loved the moment of picturing, because everyone's had that in their own house, where you have that conversation with your kid and you want to sound good, but then you don't want to sound too good, so and I said, you know what? People like to hear. Almost every shiur I've ever given in my life, I tell over something that makes me look bad. I'm not joking. And both my wife and my mother, all the time, Joey, why are you knocking yourself? Why are you admitting that you got upset? Why are you telling people you got frustrated? Why are you saying it? I said, I'll tell you why. Because everyone hears from speeches all the time from perfect sounding people. People need to hear that life is real. And we have weaknesses. In fact, I'll tell you something. I might be the only person on the planet Earth that has this unique statistic. I don't know if there's anyone. I don't know if you know anything about sports, though. They always like to make this moment the biggest moment of all time. So like tonight was the first game that a pitcher pitched 7 innings without throwing a ball, and without, like they have these statistics. I'm going to give you my statistic. I don't know if there's anyone in the world that has these 4 things. Who could speak pretty well, who hates wine, never drank coffee in his life, and can't swallow a pill. Do you know anybody my age? Okay, I have 4 married children. I'm not going to give you my age, but you get the idea. That has these 4 things in common. Oh, that's a man, by the way. Okay? Do you have anyone that has a man that doesn't drink wine, doesn't drink coffee, can't swallow a pill, can speak fairly decent? I don't know one person. There might be someone who doesn't drink wine. There might be every now and then 5% of men that don't have coffee. You're not finding any that don't swallow a pill. None. 0 in the world. But you know what? I'm okay with it. That's me. When I get older, I better learn how. But that's me. Are you comfortable, even if it's a weakness that you want to change, are you comfortable acknowledging that you have weaknesses? Because when we have the bird pecking at our brain on one end, and us trying to portray perfection on the other end, we become so distracted, we never think about our core. We're worrying about what's driving us nuts and about portraying a good image, and we're never just comfortable being our fullest self. And that's why I would say the third obstacle is time alone. We spend a lot of time with family. We spend a lot of time with friends. We spend a lot of time listening and talking, maybe even socializing. Are you comfortable? Apparently a bunch of you raised their hands, so maybe you are. Are you comfortable being alone and thinking? This is a novel idea. Think. To sit and think. I want to tell you the truth. I'm pretty calm today. If you were to see me on Sunday morning, I was not calm. Because I had a million things in my head. Involved in a lot of projects. And I think the community in Deal, we're in Deal in the summer, Brooklyn in the winter. The community in Deal is so hectic. I don't know if you know anything about Deal. There's so many different things going on. And so many projects we're involved in. And things, and we're raising. I can't tell you what's happened. And my head was twisted. I said, you know what I need to do? So between Sunday and today, on Monday afternoon, I found a private place by the ocean that no one else is there, obviously. And I sat with a pen and paper, and I just thought. My phone was not in my pocket. I just thought and started writing notes. And I wrote down, because I had made a significant move in my life. I was involved in a school for 16 years. And last year, a year and a half ago, I made a decision to leave. It was a big deal in the community. It was a big deal in my life. It was a huge story. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I want to write down the miracles Hashem did for me since that moment. And I literally wrote down 96 miracles. 96 twists and turns that happened to happen at the right moment, at the right time. And I said, you know what? Wow, he's here. And then I had some things I wanted to work on, and this took 4 pages, the 96 miracles. And then I said, let me write down some of the things I want to work on in the coming year. I was focused. I was thinking. There was nothing original in there. It was just calm, real, alone thought. And I said, the next time I have a chance to do it, I want to write this down. Not the things I need to do. I want to write down the person I want to be. That means, when someone sees Joey Haber walk in the room, what can they count on? He is that. I consider myself a nice person. I want to be a nice person across the board. Always. I consider myself a person who's not egotistical, which means every time someone comes over to me to say a nice comment or something, I want to treat them genuine like it was the first time I heard it. I want to do that across the board. I want to be a person who's still learning in a very serious way. I have to do that every day, not just in the not so busy days, every day. I want to be the kind of person that my wife knows that even if she makes a mistake, I will have the appropriate response. Not 50% of the time, all the time. I want to be the kind of person that if my children call me, they know they will get a call back and a calm, focused, listening ear within the day that says, Mazal, Sharon, Michael, Rachamim, what's on your mind? I'm ready to hear you. If I want to be that kind of father, I need to be that kind of father. But I need to first sit down alone, write down clearly what are my B's. What are the things that people can bank on me for? That's when I become me. The world is so noisy and so distracting. And we're going to conclude. So noisy and so distracting, and there's so much going on that really the fact that everyone in this room found the time to be able to say, I'm going to give a full day dedicated to this, means you already have a head start. It means that you already are that kind of person that aspires to do this. All we're charging you with today and trying to empower you today is to stop talking, even stop acting, start becoming. Start being a person that the people around you know this is you. Get the butterfly or the bird or the little, whatever that is inside of your head, get it out of your brain. Let the noise and the facade that you're trying to portray, give it up. Because I want to tell you something about that perfect person you're trying to act towards your perfect neighbor. There's one beautiful thing you learn when you're a rabbi and you know people. No one's got it together. No one has it all worked out. No one has live ducks in a row. 0 people. In fact, I had someone call me from Lakewood recently and say, I have these struggles and these things, and I don't know, and his wife, and he struggles with his wife and how she looks and whatever he's got in his head. I said, wow, okay. Somehow the topic went to Deal, and Deal, New Jersey, and the houses and the people. He says to me, like those houses I said, I can't tell you, every person's got craziness in their head. He says, like those houses on Ocean Avenue, I don't know if you know what Deal is, they're $40, $50 million houses, some of them even more. He says, like they're not perfect. I said, I could go to each house and tell you the problem in each house. This person has a problem with this kid. This person has a problem with their marriage. This person is completely faking it. This person doesn't have the money anymore. They're just trying hard. I could go down each one of the houses. I said, everyone's putting on a facade. When you become someone who's comfortable with your weaknesses, you become a breath of fresh air. You become someone who says, wow, they're just like me. And people connect to you more. And people relate to you more. People appreciate you more and love you more. I'm sorry I made a mistake, when you're honest about it. So if you can get the fly out of your head, you can be comfortable with your weaknesses, even if there's something you want to work on. Don't just let it be, work on it. And if you could spend time alone thinking about silencing your words and making who you are be the loudest component you have, then you will be you. Thank you very much.